Hello, welcome back to the channel. This is Dave, and today we're going to delve into something that I think will be valuable for a lot of folks. If you need to get information about the hardware on your system or troubleshoot hardware from the Linux command line, please stick around. So, modern operating systems offer various tools to gather information about hardware for use in diagnostics and troubleshooting. For example, many of you may be familiar with Device Manager, which is in Windows 10. Mac OS has something called System Report, and you can see here on the right a screenshot from that. And then Linux has several utilities that you can run from the command line, also known as the shell. The first of these utilities, and one that can give us quite a bit of information, is called dmesg, or DMESG, all lowercase. Remember, Linux is generally case sensitive. So what does it do? It displays messages from the kernel's ring buffer. That it stores information about kernel operations, including hardware-related messages. And this information is helpful for troubleshooting hardware issues, identifying hardware components, and diagnosing system-related problems. So if we go over to our Linux virtual machine, this is a VM running Rocky 8, we can see how to run dmesg. Simply type in dmesg. You can do this as a regular user. You do not need super user privileges. And you can see that it presents quite a bit of information that scrolls way off the top of your screen. So what you might want to do, I'm going to use history like we did in a previous video. Pull up my last command, but I'm going to pipe it into a pager called more. And you can see that this then presents it one page at a time. And then by hitting the space bar, I can go down a page at a time. And then if I'm done, I can just hit Q to quit. Let's clear the screen. Now you just saw a ton of information. That can be a bit overwhelming. So what we can do is we can actually filter the message. Dmesg output. So no arguments, it gives you this whole overwhelming dump of information. But if we want to look at information about hardware or things related to the network or USB, we can pipe the output of dmesg into grep, which is a utility used for searching through text. And we're going to use the -I flag, because what that does is it makes it so that it's not case sensitive. So let's take a look at that. And you see what this did was it just pulled out the lines which contained the word network. Now let's say we want to use this and find information about USB devices. And so this gives us information on USB devices, and you'll notice because we use the -I, it's giving us both lowercase and uppercase results. If we do the same thing without I, you'll notice that it's not including uppercase results. Or if we do it this way, it's only the uppercase results. So that's a useful flag to use with grep. So let's pull up the last thing with USB. This would be good for you to use if you're troubleshooting a USB device issue. It can give you an idea of what kinds of USB devices your system is seeing. So for example, if you've got a USB device and the system is not seeing it and it's not in here, you know that there's probably a problem with some kind of a driver. You can also do time-based filtering, and what that'll do is it'll just limit the results to output based on when that output occurred. So this is actually a dash. My presentation software wanted to concatenate those. So let's do this. Don't forget the pipe. And we include it in quotes. And you can see now what it's doing is it's only including information that occurred on this date, which as of the time of recording was yesterday. Now, if you go a little bit to the right here, you see T134300. This actually occurred at 1 p.m., or I should say 1:43 p.m. So you can extend your search string to further narrow things down. And this would narrow it down to things that just happened in the 1 o'clock hour. And you'll notice that the results here are highlighted on my terminal. So overall, you can use dmessage for identifying hardware-related issues. If you're having a problem, for example, with USB, filter the output to display only the lines that contain USB, and it reduces the amount of verbiage that you need to wade through. And the same thing applies for other kinds of components, whether they're PCI, SATA, SCSI, memory, or basically anything else. Now the other thing you can do, because it generates so much output, is you can redirect the output of dmessage to a file. And then you can go through that file and review it later using either a text editor or something like cat more or less. So for example, what this is going to do is, actually before I do that, let me just show you what we've got in this directory. You can see there's no file with the name that I'm going to use. Now, if we run the directory command again, we'll see that by doing that redirect, it actually created the text file. And so if we take a look at what's in there, it's the same thing as the output when we run it, but instead of sending the output to what's called standard out, meaning your terminal, it sent it into a text file. One thing this could be useful for is if you're having a hardware issue, you haven't been able to figure out what is wrong, and you're working with a vendor's tech support, and they might ask for information like this. Now, another way to redirect is, since you've already got this file, dmessage log, but say if you wanted to grab some more output and append it to the original file, you simply use the greater than symbol twice, and what that's going to do is it's going to concatenate the output onto the end of the previous file. So if we do that, well, first let me show you. We're going to show you this is the file size as it exists now. Now what we can do is rerun it. And now you see that the file size is basically about twice as big. So what it's going to do is it's going to just append the output to the original file. Another thing that you can use to view messages from the kernel's ring buffer is something called journal control. This is found on System D systems, which is most modern Linux systems. But what you're going to need to do with this is you do need to run this as the super user to get the best output. And we use the -K flag so that we're getting the output from the kernel ring buffer. And so you can see that we get similar information from dmessage, but the format's a little bit different. I just hit Q to quit out of that. Now, what we could do, again, is filter the output to reduce the amount of stuff we need to wade through. And you can see that greatly reduced the amount of output and just put it on what we're looking at, in this case, USB information. And likewise, you could also redirect that output to a file as well. Another program that you can do, and this is another one that you want to use as super user, is list hardware, or LSHW. So if you just run it without any arguments, you can see it scrolls back off the top of your screen. If we do it, but pipe the output into more, it allows you to scroll through it a page at a time. Or we could redirect the output to a file. You can see it created the file. And then we can use less, or we could use more to view the contents. One of the more important class of devices on your system are block devices. These are essentially your storage devices, whether they're hard drives or SSDs or whatever. And the command lsblk can give you information about the block devices, and if you run it with a -fs flag, it includes information about mount points. So this is another one that we can run without super user privileges. So let's see what we get, and this just gives us a quick and dirty amount of information about the block devices on the system. Let's add that -fs flag. And you can see we're getting quite a bit more information about those devices now. So for example, not only do we have the name of the device, we see here that this one is formatted with the VFAT file system. This one is the XFS file system. And then down here we have members of a Linux logical volume group. LVM stands for Logical Volume Manager. Over here we've got the UUIDs, which are universally unique identifiers. Most of the time you don't really need this kind of information. It comes up sometimes if you're having a fiber channel LUN presented to your server, and it helps identify that you're attempting to mount the correct version. But that's a relatively advanced topic that is out of scope for this video. And then over here, we can see the mount points for each one of these particular file systems. And we'll see that the last one is actually the swap partition. So we have a few other commands that are related. There's lscpu to get info about your CPU, your central processing unit. lspci, which lists your PCI devices. It's part of the PCI utils package. lsusb lists USB devices. That one's part of USB utils. And lsscsi, or lsscsi, that lists your SCSI and SATA devices. So just a quick word, if you find that you run lspci or lsusb and you get a command not found, what you need to do is you need to install either PCI utils or USB utils, and you would use your distribution's standard package management tool, whether it's yum, DNF, or apt. So let's take a look at some of these. So we did lscpu, and it gives us information about the processor that we're running. And you can see that this system is an Intel Core i5. We do lspci. This gives us information about the PCI bridges on the system. And lsusb gives us information about the USB hubs on the system. lsscsi gives us information about the drives, the physical drives on the system. And you can see where it says VMware. This is a virtual machine. It's running on top of VMware ESXi, which is running on an Intel NUC or NUC computer. Another handy tool is called Free. And Free displays your current memory usage. So this provides you some information. You can make it a little bit more human friendly if you use the -H flag. And so we can see that this system has a total of 1.7 gigs. 214 megs are currently in use, with 1.2 gigs are free. And then this gives information about the swap. So this can help you if you suspect that your system is running short on memory. So to learn more about each one of these individual commands, you can read the onboard documentation using the MAN system or manual system. A lot of times if you hear some disgruntled old system administrator answer a question with RTFM for read the find manual, this is what he's talking about. So you simply type in man and then the command you want to learn more about, and it'll pull up the manual page, which includes this online help. Now what I like to do a lot, so we hop back over here, is as you can see I've got a screenshot of a web browser, is you can actually Google the man pages. So if you go up and you put in your search bar man lspci, and we pull one of these up, pulls up the same thing that you've got over here, but it's on your web browser. And I like to do that because, generally speaking, I have access to the internet, and it allows me to easily view everything in the man page in a separate window from the window that I'm actually trying to get work done. And this also happens to be very handy if I need to, say, copy something and paste it over into the terminal. So this, I find, is a very useful technique for accessing information. And that's really it. So even without a graphical interface, Linux provides several powerful tools that are usable from your shell session. If you're a system administrator, it really behooves you to become comfortable with using these commands to troubleshoot hardware issues and understand the kernel's interactions with hardware components. By analyzing their output, you can identify potential problems, view system boot messages, and gather information about the hardware configuration of your system. And you can do this all from the command line. You don't need any kind of fancy graphical tool. So, thank you for watching. If you want to, you can grab a copy of this slide deck from my GitHub site. The link's here. I'll also put it down in the video description. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe, and also click that notification button so that every time I post a new video on my channel, you'll get notified about it. And then finally, if you know anyone who would find this information helpful, please share it out. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.